So I just have a couple quick slides before I hand it off. And so, of course, we really want to thank the sponsors that we had were amazing. So we want to start with that. We really appreciated that this year, and we really are working on setting up a sponsorship structure for next year that enables us to support target audiences that we really want to be at the meeting. And so if people are interested in that, you'll hear throughout the day as we talk about opportunities for us to engage together. You don't have to be the sponsor for that, but if you have ideas or thoughts or have strong opinions about how it went, please let us know. Thanks to those sponsors, they really made it happen. And we wanted to start by saying that we think, and based on the feedback we've gotten, although the link to the feedback's at the end of this too, and we'll share this deck, but we really think it was a huge success. We have been, NREL and JISEA have been doing this event since 2011 or 2012. It's a little unclear. The 2011 was a little less formal. And when the team that's currently in JISEA, who you're looking at, and Sam, but when the JISEA team that you are currently looking at took it over last year, we really wanted to have it be a discussion-based meeting. We really wanted to see more diversity of institutions in the room, and we really think we made a lot of progress toward that this year. We loved talking to you all. We loved getting to know everyone. So today, what we're going to do is, we didn't want to do a rehash, even though we're happy to do that. I know some of you couldn't make it to the meeting. I see it, Joe. I'm almost done. But we are going to share what happened for those of you who didn't make it. But what we really wanted to talk about was impact and next steps. So we're going to have 4 sort of sections here. All of them have this 4th action, the next steps we can take together. But we're going to do themes that emerged, and that will also be a little bit of a summary. Each of the session leads will give the JISEA session leads will give a summary there. Jared Tiemanson from our team is going to lead that section, so I'll hand it over to him in just a minute. And then Kristen Guilfoyle is going to lead our section on further engagement. So we have been thinking about the discussions that happened during the annual meeting and how we can connect better. That is true for both internal NREL folks who are here. We would like to work with you all on that, but also connecting people to each other. So like NREL folks, non-NREL folks, and further connections and things so that you're more aware of what we're kind of working towards. And if you want to work with us on the items, we would love to hear from you. And then, or if you already are working on them, we'd also love to hear from you. And then Debbie is going to take over. We really thought that the connections that happened at the meeting were really helpful. And so we wanted to talk about those and also talk about how we could push forward on other groups that should be connected. And then finally, I will close this out. And then we hopefully the goal is to have discussion time in like the sort of half hour. Now it's going to be 25 minutes level of time. But if we have discussion during, then we will extend a little bit, and people can hang out as long as they like. So with that, I think I'm done, but I'm running the slide. So Jared, just tell me when to flip. Welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us.
Sounds good. All right. So as Liz said, I'm going to take us through some of the recurring themes that sort of stuck out during the 2-day JISEA annual meeting this year, sort of what we heard from the audience, what we heard from our speakers, and what sort of direction we believe that provides us for future JISEA programming and future events. So Liz, if you would advance. So to refresh everyone's memory and for the benefit of those who were unable to join us this year, the JISEA annual meeting this year, we anchored around our 4 focus areas, and those are hard to decarbonize industries, so everything from ag to steel and iron, climate adaptation and clean energy, so the nexus of energy infrastructure, clean energy deployments, and the implications of a changing climate, tech-society interface, so what are the societal implications of clean energy sort of becoming the dominant source of energy and the energy transition as a whole, and then finally workforce, an opportunity and also sort of a bottleneck in this space. So we've anchored the agenda around those 4 focus areas. Each area we had 3 hours dedicated to, starting with hard to decarb there, ending with workforce. We had expert presentations, panel discussions, and interactive solution engineering, pardon my typo. If you would advance the slide, Liz. So sort of a high level distillation, and then we'll go focus area by focus area, sort of drilling in on what we heard across all of those different 3-hour sessions. So as I mentioned, we started with the hard to decarb discussion. One of the sort of recurring themes we heard across our speakers, and that I think got people's attention and provoked a lot of discussion with the audience, was just how sort of these deep decarbonization contexts really require integrated solutions, because there's new supply chains, new ecosystems that need to be cultivated with innovative solutions, workforces to support them. So it was really stressed across those 4 speakers that we had, and sort of in the engagement with the audience, that we need integrated solutions with careful stakeholder cultivation and co-benefits, right? There's a lot of discussion about how decarbonizing this sector over here can provide economic opportunities, for this community over here or this other industry over here. So a big emphasis there. Across all 4 sections, there's really this sort of it takes a village point that sort of picks up on the last theme. It seems, I think, clear to me in both this event and other events I've been attending this year and last year as well, that we're at a sort of inflection point where the energy transition really is a very large ship that we're turning, and it's starting to gain steam. And that means we really need to fundamentally change the way we do a lot of things in the economy, the way we plan, the way we anticipate change. And so that was sort of, again, a recurring theme here. That goes nicely into this next point, which is equity. Equity came up a lot, as much as it came up organically quite a bit in each session. Again, with a lot of rich discussion and debate between our expert panelists and speakers and the audience. And in some of the feedback we received in writing from the survey that we put out, it seems that there is an interest in seeing that particular discussion start to mature into articulating very tactical, meaningful ways that we can introduce these concepts into actual programming, investments that are made, and collaborations that are formed. So people really want action more than just talk, is the feedback that we received. And that sort of, again, goes into the next final point here, is that we really want to focus on those tactical collaborations that incorporate diversity. Yes, so next slide, please. So as I mentioned, now we're going to kind of go into just a focus area by focus area discussion. I'll start with our industrial decarbonization and then kick it to Kristen Wegner-Guilfoyle. This kind of picks up on what I had said previously. This was sort of capped off by Rolf Weberg's presentation about the work happening in Duluth, Minnesota, but basically doing these sort of deep decarbonization efforts where we have very substantial challenges ahead of us. The decarbonization efforts really require broad coalitions to sort of help achieve the deep decarbonization at scale that is required. So I'll go quickly through the 4 sort of subsectors that we touched on, just to do our speakers that courtesy. So aviation, Chad Reese from the San Diego National Airport stressed that airports are doing what they can to sort of tackle the emissions that are in their immediate control, but SAF, sustainable aviation fuel, is still what he called the silver buckshot. And SAF, as he articulated and as was sort of discussed with our audience, really does require, again, those integrated solutions, new supply chains, etc. And so SAF is this massive opportunity, but a huge technical challenge and sort of social challenge, economic challenge looking forward. We went to Jordan Lambert with CSU, who talked about agriculture, talked a lot about poop, and we talked a lot about, again, sort of how poop is a really useful feedstock, how there is sort of a lot of opportunities that can be sort of achieved at the farm with practical implementation, again, if there is sort of careful collaboration with waste, feedstock, off-takers, etc. So agriculture. Jordan presented a lot of interesting opportunities there. Anna Day from NREL talked about cement and concrete, stressed that workforce is a bottleneck there, and innovation and adoption have to happen in tandem if we're going to actually decarbonize the built environment, for example. And then finally, steel and iron, which was sort of a place-based case study in Duluth, looking at how they've taken a wide aperture to look at innovating in that space to create an integrated industrial decarb ecosystem with the engagement of tribal communities, community colleges, universities, everybody to kind of move this effort forward. So that was a quick summary of the industrial decarb session. And with that, I will kick it to my colleague, Kristen.
Thanks, Jared. Appreciate it. I will now discuss the Society Technology Interface session. If we could move to the next slide. I'll give a quick overview, and then if Lynn Abramson is here.
Yeah, you can move on.
I am.
Yay. Okay, great. So the structure of this was a presentation by Maria Curry-Nacansa from NREL. She gave an overview of a project that she's managing. Then we had a great panel discussion and then small group discussions. So this overall outcome, the expected outcome was to figure out what are the key trends across all of these different topics that we had for the breakout sessions, and then to start to articulate it and to find what's JISEA's role within the space, what is needed, and where can we move forward as a collaborative group. I will kick it over to Lynn, and then I'll share some outcomes of the overall session.
Great. Thank you so much, Kristen. So we had a terrific group of panelists who spoke on their perspectives, representing professionals, working with tribes, working with other community leaders, representing sort of the perspective of what it's like to be a woman or a person of color in the energy space and be underrepresented, and sort of, this being a difficult space to enter, but when you layer on these additional externalities, some of the challenges that are there. Some of the themes that came up in the conversation, I would say that the sort of community dynamics, equity, justice, workforce, and to some extent siting were like particularly big themes that arose in the panel. One of the topics that came up was this concept of sovereignty or sort of place-based innovation, finding ways to cultivate local innovators and business owners within the community where projects are being and technologies are being developed, and to try to retain some of the equity and talent within those communities. So that's a concept that's come up sometimes with construction and siting, but that came up a lot with respect to innovation as well and development of new technologies and IP. We heard a lot about sort of democratizing access to energy and allowing communities to, again, have self-determination. Access to information was also very important, and sort of talking about how communities that have been underinvested don't have access to, okay, what's coming out? How do we access some of these funding resources or programs or new technologies? And then I think another theme that came up was this concept of agency, empowering people to advocate for themselves. And, especially, this came up, I think, from one of our speakers talking about women and how sometimes female entrepreneurs, that's a struggle. So those were some of the themes that came up in the panel discussion. And then we went into the breakout groups and explored that further. And Kristen, maybe you can unpack some of those themes.
Yeah, great. Thanks so much, Lynn. And thanks for moderating the panel. On the left in the green box, you can see just highlighted themes that were discussed in the small groups. So AI, research, innovation, siting. Within the society technology interface, it can sometimes be messy. There's lots of different levels to look at these different issues. And one of the things we really wanted to get out of these small groups was, again, to figure out what are people talking about? What are some of the different common themes? Where can JISEA make an impact in these? And so on the right, the darker green box, you can see some of the next steps that we're working on. So AI, ML, it continues to come up. And so we have our catalyzer for green computing and continually look at what is the research agenda that where should NREL be looking? Research innovation feedback loops. We've had some good conversations with folks that work on prizes and how do we use some of the the prize data coming in to be able to feed, to be a feedback loop for our research agendas across the RD&D cycle. Citing, we presented a paper, which was also the same day as the JISEA annual meeting about citing, and it's an area that we're continuing to explore. There'll be a social science convening later this summer or fall. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And we're also working on a workforce analysis. So while sometimes the conversations were, again, messy and all over the place, we're trying to really synthesize it and figure out where should JISEA be, and these are some of the actions that we're working. So thanks for being part of that conversation. I will kick it over to Debbie.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. I'm Debbie, if you don't know me, Debbie Burchiles. So we also did a workforce session. So we dug in deep for 3 hours on workforce development, and we had a panel of 8 participants that were with us that day. And the panel was very lively, I will say. So it was a really fun panel to moderate. And what we were trying to do is really do exactly, I think, what happened. So we have that vibrant discussion about the needs and the gaps and really the next steps that are needed for workforce development programming, and kind of taking a look at like what JISEA can and should be doing, right? So I think everything that we learned from this session is kind of going to go into kind of a strategy for what we're going to be doing with JISEA and how that can connect with other work that's already happening at the lab, including some of our research projects. Like I said, we did this panel discussion first for quite a long time. We actually let the panel go a little longer than we expected because there was such really rich conversation, I think, in the audience. And then we broke into working tables all across the room. So our topics and themes that we explored were increasing inclusivity and diversity in general in the clean energy space, the difference between rural and urban needs. So we've kind of realized that, you know, people who want to get a job in the city may want to live in the city as well. And those jobs look different than the people that are maybe in rural communities. So how do we train people appropriately for where they want to live and be? And we don't want to train people maybe who live in a rural environment and then make them want to kind of transition to live in the city, and vice versa. So we started looking at that a little bit, transitioning to the clean energy industry. There we were trying to take a look at people who actually have jobs that are in other maybe manufacturing areas or other industries, and try to see like how can we bring them into the clean energy industry. Engaging early career workers, I think, was a big topic as well, because we really want to obviously train people and get people really early on in their career to come and want to work in the clean energy space. So we talked about that. We had a fun one that was a little bit different for the DOE folks on the line, and we were exploring ways that we could maybe have DOE and DOE, Department of Education, work together on some new programming. So we explored some opportunities there. We talked, of course, AI is a big topic, so we talked about that, and there could be benefits and concerns in the workforce. And then new curriculum ideas and skilled versus unskilled workers as well. So some of the next steps that we're going to be doing from this is still kind of synthesizing all that information, continuing to build a lot of relationships and partnerships, because I think we talked a lot during that session about people that are already doing some really great things. So we want to keep those relationships going, potentially have more convening meetings in the future to talk more about that. And we're also want to keep, one of the things that we did is we started to put together kind of a little database. We had a QR code there. So we were starting to kind of hopefully start that by the people that were in the room, by just telling us what they knew, what programs are going well, what university programs are out there, what coalitions already are out there, what programs exist today that are being successful. So we actually took that and we're starting to build that out a little bit. We don't yet have funding for like a full tool, but that QR code still does work. So if you still have that, and I think I have it in a couple slides here, we can still be passing around that QR code to continue to build that database. So I'm pretty excited about keeping that effort going. And then in the couple things I want to just mention here, there's 3 bullets here on events coming up. there's the IEEE PES general meeting, and they actually have a workforce session that's identified in July, and that's in Seattle, Washington. And so I've become part of that working group. So I'm kind of excited to go out there and learn more from them. But I just wanted to let you know that like IEEE is really kind of diving in on workforce now too. So you all could get involved in that if you wanted to. And then there's next week or the middle of this month, there's a DOE Minority Business Enterprise Summit. I'm actually going to that as well. Shalea Morissette, who was also on our panel, is leading that. I don't know if she's on the call today, but that is, I think, going to be a really good opportunity to discuss workforce again. And then I did want to call your attention to the middle green box because there's an upskill prize that we just launched. This one's very focused on solar, but is basically connecting solar manufacturers to trainers in the solar industry. Next slide. Then this is very small and you can't really read it, but hopefully the slides will be sent out. But basically, I wanted to provide you with all of the data that we had from the JAM session from that QR code. Like I said, we're trying to start to build sort of a little database on what is happening out there across the country, what good programs are there, are they focused on a certain state, a certain technology, or do they have a national focus? So this is kind of what we have so far. Like I said, it's really small, but we're hoping to build that up. And I think my next slide is the QR code again. So if you would like to continue to help us crowdsource programs and partners and coalitions, this is the QR code that we used at that event. And it's, like I said, it's still live, so we can still use it and share it, and we'll still be able to kind of continue that together if you're interested in taking advantage of that. I'll pass it over to Liz.
Yeah, I think I'm the last session, right, Jared? All right. So I was the chair along with our team, Hillary Klein from CSU, and Lynn also helped with this session, and Eliza Hotchkiss at NREL helped with this session on this the role of clean energy and climate adaptation. And this one was like a built on several different workshops that we've done over the course of the last year or participated in or executed. And we really connected. We started off a year ago with these desk research questions, all of which to some extent are happening both within NREL and outside of NREL. And then we also have done just a lot of different engagements and a lot of different introductory like scoping processes called catalyzers. That's the program Jared runs. And we really looked at how can we think about these 4 questions on what the role of NREL or others could be in this adaptation space, acknowledging that the word adaptation is actually, you know, there is a lot of work already going on that could fit into that word, right? We always talk about language when we talk about JISEA and emerging issues. So coming out of those 2 engagements over the last year, the blue box and the orange box, we get to the green box, which are these common research areas that we came into the JAM with. So we came into the JAM with, they weren't formatted this nicely, but it's the same list. And we came in with this list of how people are thinking about this. And so we did a lot of surveys. There's some data in this document where you can see how people responded to our polls and also to some of the questions that we asked in the small group conversations. But this is in order. So the reason it looks different than it did when we presented it is because we synthesized that information. And this is the order in which the people in the room, so the 129 folks representing like many different industries that we'll talk about, and we have a list of later on in the presentation, really tried to prioritize these research areas that are the highest need. And so I will only mention like by far the human-centered clean energy technology in the adaptation context. So like human-centered design impacts and approaches were really the things that were of the most interest. So case studies around that, discussing how that is done, how you apply human-centered design in early stage R&D. We are working to sort of connect that to, we have a catalyzer in the equity space on informing early stage R&D and equity that is building off of some other work that NREL's done in the past, called Just R, if you're on the NREL team. And so we're working to try to connect those pieces. Also important are still our training and education pieces, and then our energy sector specific adaptation needs. we think, we don't know, but we think the reason that fell a little lower is we thought maybe it was because there were fewer NREL people in the room, right? That are like, they think about this type of thing all the time, like the energy sector specific needs. When we dug into the data, because we can pull everywhere, as you say, who you are, it's actually, that wasn't the case. It wasn't fewer NREL folks. There were plenty of NREL folks in there who were putting other pieces up higher. And I think it's a really interesting finding. Part of it, we were thinking in our discussion, was really around like, maybe that's because some of that work is already happening, that it was the things that aren't happening rose to the top. But we don't know, so we're going to continue those discussions. But it did help us prioritize, and we're now in the process of writing that up. And we would love co-authors on that. That's that goals and outcomes. So the whole goal, as we said at the beginning, was of that session was to co-develop a write-up, like get a publication out of it, and of what those research needs are. And so we are working on that, and we would love help. We would love people to engage in that. Several people have already reached out, so we're working with them. That's that first bullet. We also are working on a migration and energy infrastructure workshop that we'll do. And then we're going to be at the National Adaptation Forum doing a longer readout of this, and also doing small table topics in a session with other national labs and federal agencies, talking about like getting more sort of from that audience, right? People who are at that meeting, going to people where they're at and hearing what they have to say about this list. That will also contribute to the write-up and to the workshop. I also wanted to mention, and I have a sign up for this. This sign up on the forms is like a more specific interest sign up, and I'll put it in the chat also. Well, actually I won't, because I'm showing slides. But it has all of these different things that we're doing in it, with more details about each of them. And if you're interested in this adaptation space and thinking about clean energy and adaptation, I really invite you to engage that way, or just call me. Because we're also going to do this, we have the Resilient National Partnership Network, which is something that Kristen has been engaged in, is doing a film series on Thursdays. And we're going to do like a paired, it's a network, talks about adaptation and resilience. We're going to do a paired discussion series. So like super informal, but like we'll have a time and you can bring, you know, your coffee or whatever. And we'll do a virtual follow-up after watching those movies. So it's like a discussion group, and hopefully we can engage more with people in that way. So that is the adaptation session. And I think I'm going back to Jared.
Wraps up this particular section, Liz. So in the agenda, I kick it to Kristen.
Sorry, should have gone straight to Kristen. I apologize.
No worries.
Go team. Here we are. So there are lots of ways that we invite you to partner with JISEA. I'm going to share a couple specific examples in a second, but I first wanted to start off and share there's convening. Come to our JISEA annual meeting. Sign up for a newsletter. We have lots of different ways to hear more about JAM on our website and LinkedIn. Tell us about the things that you're convening. We'd love to go. We'd love to partner with you. We'd love to speak or present or be part of a panel. We'd also like to co-design convenings. So this could be with funds that you have, or we could work on proposals together to get things, or we could also bring our funds if it's related to things that we're working on to be able to co-design convenings. We also invite you to partner on project proposals with us. So again, things that you're working on, things that you're initiating, feel free to call us, and we'll be happy to collaborate with you on proposals. We also initiate different types of proposal development also. So you could learn about that from our newsletter, or again, I'll share a couple examples in a minute so that you can hear what's on our radar, and we can co-apply to funding together too. There are also lots of different NREL engaged opportunities. We have prizes, vouchers, technical assistance, as well as other grants that we administer. Next slide, please. So some cross-cutting JISEA convenings and things that we'd like to have on your radar, because we really hope that you'll engage with us over the next few months and this year. A social science convening that will be in the summer or the fall. We are looking for partners across the board. And we'd also specifically like to have a partner from an HBCU, MSI, or community college be able to partner with us to form and execute this. So funding, either you bring your own for your efforts, or we could look together. So please reach out to me if you're interested in collaborating on that, and I'd be happy to share more about it. And eventually, hopefully start a group to work on it too. So the Regional American Made Network events, please contact Debbie. This is ongoing, so people in the American Made Network can convene meetings with interested parties at different meetings that you have. Again, bring your own funding, but we have branding and resources for planning. I know some folks on this call have done meetings like this recently, and I know that there's a lot of great ways to drive people to attend your events, as well as to really engage the network. And then we're also looking for 2 to 4 short virtual workshops for publication writing, and that will be live at, I think, the National Adaptation Forum. If you're interested, contact Liz, and that will be this summer. So we're looking for someone or for partners for input on documents that were started at JAM 2024 that Liz mentioned. Next slide, please. So here are some of the different funding opportunities that we are considering, and we welcome partners for this. So there's a DOE FOA out for quantitative socioeconomic impacts of OSED projects related to workforce. So please reach out if you're interested on that one. A few federally funded non-DOE opportunities from the National Science Foundation, as well as the EPA. Again, these slides will go out and have the hyperlinks, so we'll share more about this, but we just wanted you to see the types of things that we're considering for partnerships. I will pause for a quick second if anyone has any comments or questions. I see Adam Warren. Is that for the OSED one, Adam?
On the previous, I mean, it could be for this, but
yeah,
I was talking about the previous one. Lots of behavioral economists and people that have social backgrounds in this list here. There's a write-up on that page you can take a look at. Some of them already have joint appointments at the laboratory, like Benjamin Silvercool, for example. So let's keep that conversation going.
Absolutely. Yeah, you were on our list of people to reach out to as soon as we start the ball rolling. So we'll definitely reach out about that. Thanks.
Great.
Before I continue, how much time do I have? I don't want to. Joe?
Thanks. I think within the next 3 or 4 minutes to try to wrap up your section would be useful.
Okay. Next slide then. Apply for NREL ops. Debbie mentioned 15 new prizes. Please go to this website. There are lots of great opportunities, especially related to workforce and lots of different types. I know a lot of folks are here that have already done this, but we encourage everyone to look at this website. Next slide. We also have opportunities for anyone outside of NREL. C2C applications are open right now. Energy Works through Department of Energy has these different opportunities, so we encourage you to explore those. Next slide. And we have a few different slides we could just pass through because I think, again, this will come out in the email, but different competitive opportunities that we encourage you to explore. Next slide. Next slide. USDA, Department of Labor. And now I'd like to open it up for 2 minutes. I'll go for 2 minutes. But who has opportunities for funding, resources, partnership that you'd like to share with us? You could just drop it in or raise your hand, but would love to hear from you too. Jade, I see a question about, is JISEA NREL available as a sub? Yeah, we would love to have conversations with you about potential opportunities for us to be a sub, for you to be a sub on ours too. So let's connect about that one. Lynn.
Hey, I'll drop some stuff in the chat about this, but just wanted to flag some of the free resources that the Clean Energy Business Network has available to track some of these DOE, NREL, AMC, and other funding opportunities, as well as resources across the country. So these include a clean tech, a US clean tech funding database where we have federal, state, incubator, et cetera, funding opportunities. all tagged and searchable. We also recently launched something called the Clean Tech Ecosystem Resources List, which is sort of a quick access list of organizations providing support services to businesses or communities. And this can be in things like grant writing or JEDI services or policy or technology related. So I'll drop links to those in the chat. I encourage you to join our email list, but also there's a lot of folks that are on this call that probably have good resources to add. So there is a link on the ecosystem resources page to apply to join and be listed there. Please be aware that this is being done manually by one of my team members. So like it might take us a little while to get back to you. We had fortunately a great interest in this, but we are getting through and adding new things. And feel free to email us anytime with additional events, funding resources, etc.
Great. Thanks so much, Lynn. And just to close out, I would say we'll continue to push out opportunities. We continue to invite people to partner with us. And then if you ever have any questions, please reach out to us too. A lot of times on the back end, we'll have a lot of conversations across NREL, across JISEA, and trying to figure out who can apply for what, who can we share this with, et cetera. So if you have any questions, just continue to reach out to us. So thank you. And now I will turn it over to, I think, Debbie.
Great. Thank you so much. All right. So I would like to try, I know there's a big group of people, but I would like to try to have a discussion today through chat or by raising your hand and jumping into the conversation. I would love to hear from you. So what I'd like to try to do in this next little section about partnering and connections is really just talk about how you all partnered during our JISEA annual meeting, and how did you develop any new partnerships or connections? Did that meeting help move anything along for you? Did you meet somebody new? Did you put together a new proposal? Do you just have a new relationship that you're kind of working with somebody new that you never even met before? I'd love to know that. And also, so be thinking about this because I'm going to be asking you some questions in a minute. But I would like to know like who you connected with, and maybe we could try to also see like who was missing and like who you might want to invite next year. So be thinking about that too. Were there organizations that you would have loved to see there that just were not there? And because we'd love to know that now so we can plan early and get those people there at the next meeting. So just be thinking about your answers to these questions, and I'll be pinging you for the discussion in a minute. But as a starting point, I wanted to kind of showcase an example. So we can go to the next slide. Jade, I heard that you're on, so I hope you don't mind that I'm using your picture or likeness here, but I wanted to, and I don't think AJ is, I was searching to see if AJ was here, but I just wanted to use this as a really great example of what can happen when people start connecting and partnering together. As y'all know, probably, because I think we've talked about it quite a bit, but Jade and AJ Perkins have worked together in a really great way recently. They've been doing that for a while, and Jade has been working on the American Made Prize program for a very long time. If you don't know, Jade is with Positive Deviancy, and she is a connector in our network. And so she's been helping many prize competitors over the years just literally get connected to the resources and the people that they need to be successful in our prize programs and with other things as well, including just regular business support and things like that. And I wanted to call attention to like Jade working with AJ is just such a magical connection because AJ is also, he's an amazing business person. He's a community leader, and he's also an expert about hydrogen and microgrids and EV charging and such. But when we were in Hawaii for the RE Plus Hawaii, Jade and AJ got together and they actually like used their power to convene a meeting where a bunch of people, as you can see in that top picture, got together and started to learn more about other funding opportunities, which included the American Made prizes that were open at the time. And so both of them, gave their time, gave their energy, brought people together. And then the result, luckily there's a lot of results actually that happened, but one of them is that the Lay Foundation in Hawaii actually just won the concept phase in the Clean Energy Ecosystem track of the Community Energy Innovations Prize. So they got $100,000 because of this connection that AJ and Jade made. And they got support and they got to continue through that prize, and we'll have a chance to win even more money. So I just thought that was amazing. And then they didn't just help the Lay Foundation. They also helped a bunch of other teams that maybe didn't win that prize, but now that those teams now know about other funding opportunities. They now are connected to AJ and Jade, and so they can continue to help people. So anyway, I just want to say thank you, Jade, and just have like that kind of thing can happen over and over again at all of these convenings, and especially at kind of JAM25. So we'll go to the next slide. The next slide is a listing of everybody who has came to our JAM meeting. And I realize this is also kind of small, but hopefully you can see your organization in there. If you're from, I think I got everybody. So there should be every organization that was represented there should be on this slide, which I think, number one, shows the breadth of the organizations that have come. I think it also shows really the diversity of the type of organizations that we're bringing in as well. So I guess for this discussion, and I already know that there's a ton of NREL people, and I definitely saw our DOE friends, some of them on the line as well. But I guess what I wanted to do is see if somebody who's not NREL or DOE, if you could maybe put in the chat what organization you're from today, just so we can kind of see who else is here as a starting point.
Hey, Debbie, I skipped in my intro the pie chart of like the numbers for people by organization type. Do you want me to just quickly scroll up to that for people?
Sure, while people are putting that in, sure.
Yeah, additional data point. Sorry, it's going to be a little nauseating for people. Sorry, scrolly. There it is. So we had about half, our goal was of half lab and half not lab. That was the goal. And I think when we definitely hit it, and we had mostly lab people that included NETL, and I can't remember, we had another lab there that was in that list, but mostly NREL folks, a lot of academics, a lot of industry, NGOs, and then government and other research organizations and utilities and philanthropy.
Awesome, thanks. And thanks for those that put who you are in the chat. I'd also like to know, so I'm gonna type a question in here. Who was missing? So that way I'll know who was, that way we don't have like a confusion as to people who were missing. But I guess looking at this list, who was missing? Do you feel, I mean, it's all of you guys participated with, hopefully, with us that day. Who else would you have loved to have been in the room that was not there? And so that's what I'm looking for now is, yeah, anybody who you think we should be inviting.
And in this short break, Debbie, I'll say, let's say about 5 more minutes for your section.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. Awesome. And so we don't have to just sit here and wait for y'all to think of those people that we're missing. But I guess what my point is here is that we want to know who we should be inviting next year. So please be thinking of that. Keep adding it into the chat as we're talking here. But also don't be afraid to reach out to us and say, hey, I think we should invite this person or this organization to make the event even better. We do want to think about our numbers, and I know that Liz is going to be talking a little bit about what our plans are for next year, and we're hoping, I think, to expand our numbers maybe a little bit, or just have a little bit more breathing room by maybe going to the NREL Cafe. So we're looking at some other room opportunities as well. So we have room basically to expand this list and bring in other players as well. So please keep giving us that feedback. That would be great. And then I guess I just wanted to open it up for a couple of minutes on if anybody did want to raise their hand and say who they maybe did connect with at the event. Did you find any partnerships or connections that were valuable to you since then? And I'd love to hear that too.
Jade, you put a good one in the chat about picking up people at JAM24, which I think is a great, I was trying to articulate like, yeah, we we want people to feel like they got picked up at JAM24.
Okay, so if you don't want to speak at the moment, that's fine too. But yeah, just keep putting your ideas in there. And like I said, if you do have any good success stories of partnering with somebody for a proposal, or just making a connection that you couldn't have made otherwise, I think we'd love to hear that. And Daniela's on the line as well. She's our communications person. We'd love to like kind of share those things as well.
If you want some proof that people are listening to you and some contributions.
Oh, good. Hi, Frank.
Yeah, we got a bunch of, I know we already spoke a little bit recently, but if it helped for other folks to maybe get a few other examples. I thought we had some really fun connections with like ACEEE, for example, that I don't know if we would have connected with before. So I think for a lot of folks to know, we do kind of career pathway development work, and a lot of times doing with higher ed, but other types of partners and utilities and the companies that work under kind of energy efficiencies and the utility sector are very divided and kind of tricky to get a hold of. So I think we're talking a little bit with them around some kind of follow-up material. And then, oh my gosh, I'm gonna forget the other one, but it's okay. That's a good example. And maybe someone else will pipe up with other good ones.
Awesome. Thanks, Frank. And Lynn, you did put in the chat too. You're right. Somebody said invite a friend concept, right? So that's another thing that we can do proactively, like now. Just tell us who we should be putting on our invite list, and we'll do it. Or that is something to remember too. That when the invites go out, make sure that you share that and invite a friend to come to the meeting, because we want more people engaged. And I think we did a pretty good job of trying to cast a bigger net and bring in some more diverse viewpoints and opinions, but we can always do better on that too. So anyway, I just really appreciate you guys all engaging, and I look forward to you guys engaging to help us plan for next year as well. So I think that's my last slide. Back to you, Liz.
That was a great segue. So I'm the closeout person, and we're like almost right on time. I don't know if you were arm twisting in the background, Joe, or if that was just smooth, but that's worked. So we held the time for those of you, for some of you, until 1 o'clock Mountain, but we planned on just doing an hour. So I did want to announce today that we have decided on a date that does not conflict with NARUC. I'm sure it will conflict with something, but this year we conflicted with NARUC. This does not conflict with NARUC. But it's just about the same week. It's February 25th through the 28th. So I hope people will put on their calendars right now. We'll get more information. We out to people. We, based on the feedback during the meeting and following the meeting, we wanted to switch things up a little bit here. And for the meeting, which is, we had after 2023, when no one took the tours, we did not do tours this year. And we got feedback during the meeting that people would like tours, not only of NREL, but also like side tours of maybe, I think Spur came up in here, right? Other things around the laboratory, the community groups that run great projects and things like that. So we're going to try to work through that. We are for that. And also the second piece of feedback we got was, and this is the first time in my career I have gotten this feedback. We need more information delivery from NREL, right? Like I think that that wasn't overwhelming, but there was sort of this piece of feedback around, like, we have swayed a little too far into discussion based, and we actually like need to have more like information delivery about what NREL is doing in order to inform better conversations. So here's what we're thinking. We're thinking we will expand by a day, and we will have the first day, this Tuesday, will be a learning day. So, all of this is connected, but if you don't want to come to the NREL Learning Day, then you don't have to. But this would be like having different tracks during that day, all early stage, of different interest areas, right? And so maybe an industrial decarb day, where NREL's doing a ton of work on industrial decarb across a lot of different portfolios, very difficult to cover in a 3-hour session. So could we have some more longer term discussion about that? We might also have a prize deep dive that day on a particular prize that's open from American Made. We could also do tours. We've had a lot of interest. JISEA historically and currently does a lot of international work, both in the research and technical assistance, and helping countries meeting their NDC goals, which nationally determined contributions, and for decarbonization. And like maybe we talk about that and we integrate it with some of the other international work that's going on at NREL to deliver for audiences that are interested there. We could also do tech specific pieces. So that's kind of what we're thinking about there. And the ask for you all is, what is interesting about that? And then also, if anybody always, if anybody knows someone who wants to sponsor it, we would love to have sponsors. It offsets a lot of our costs, and I think many of you on this line are familiar with why events need sponsors. So then Wednesday and Thursday would be the JAM sessions, just like we had. So the 2-day meeting we did this year would be that Wednesday and Thursday that week. And we are thinking that we will keep if we did the industry decarb learning day, we would integrate discussion into that. So that would be within that learning day. And so we do adaptation and workforce, what we push forward from this year, right? Like what is the next step? We haven't designed it yet. We would love to work with you on that if you're interested. And then on Thursday, what we would do is, and have really tactical outcomes from that, like work towards project development, right? And project partnerships. And then on Thursday, the Society Tech session, the evolution of that is really turned into this year based on your feedback and the discussions that we had in that meeting, really turned into like, what are the seeds of the next pieces that we should really be focused on, right? Like you could see a really wide diversity of topics that came up there, some of which are like covered in by other organizations, some of them are not. Some of them think they are and maybe are not totally covered, right? Like there's just a lot going on there. So we wanted to sort of shift that into like the seeds of emerging challenges session, right? Like what are those big challenges? And probably a lot of input from the meetings that we're going to this year, like back in all the other ones we've mentioned so far. And then in the afternoon, we're thinking there's not committed, right? There's just like an idea to really do a broader American Made, maybe one of the regional events or some sort of summit where we, I don't know, solve some sort of thing that's going on across multiple prizes within the American Made program, maybe. So that is and then side meetings. We loved setting up the side meeting. That I think was really helpful for engaging people more broadly in the network. So this is our idea for 2025. I don't know, I stopped looking at the chat, so I didn't get distracted. But I don't know if people have thoughts there. Oh, I do see some. So I will continue to look at this. But if you have ideas or feedback or want to engage with us on the annual meeting, which we're probably going to call Institute Week because it is broader than just the annual meeting pieces, then please reach out. That is true for NREL folks and for others. NREL folks, you guys know how to find us. But we are just diving into sort of thinking about this structure, totally based on people's feedback during and after. And there'll be another chance, I think it's on the next slide, to where I have a link to that feedback if you want to offer more feedback, or that's just a good place to dump information that we look at all the time. Okay. This is the end. I'm wrapping up. And for all of us, and then we can go into discussion and Q&A if people want to stick around about anything. Well, not anything, but about most things related to the annual meeting and JISEA. So if you want to get to know us better, if you just want to have more passive information delivery to you, then please follow us. We have a newsletter that we send out periodically that's sent by Danielle Frank, our communicator. It's awesome. And talks about all the work we're doing, so you can get a download of that. We also have the American Made Network. Please join this network. This is a great way to just stay connected with what's going on with the American Made program. It's also a great way to get resources, and Lynn is in that network, and so it's sort of a network of networks kind of situation once you're in there. They're also like sharing of financial project opportunities and things like that through that network. So if you are interested in challenges and prizes and competitions, and even more broadly vouchers and educational opportunities, please join that network. And then please contact us, and it's here, if you would like to be engaged in JAM25. You can do that through this feedback on JAM24 form, which is linked there, and we'll send these. I'll put these in the chat in a moment. If you have photos that you want to share with us, please put them in our box. That is I just changed the permissions this morning. That's why it wasn't working for people who had tried before. But that should be open publicly now in the NREL box. And then Debbie shared her QR code and I shared the form for adaptation. And so please feel free to engage with us on both of those pieces. They're in this deck. And then finally, we do have the published meeting slides that I referenced a little earlier in the chat that are available through the 4 links here. And that's all the slides for all the speakers and also the JISEA folks that did intros and Poll Everywhere style or Menti style discussion questions. And if I'm finished, yes. This, we wanted as a group to wrap up with just like this huge thank you for spending your time with us and engaging with us. And then 6 weeks later, also continuing to engage with us. We really appreciate that. And we're really looking forward to the projects that are going to emerge out of here. So thank you very much. And we're happy to stay around for discussion, questions, thoughts, random things that came to your mind, things about the eclipse. We'd love to talk to you. But thanks so much. And thanks so much to the JISEA team too. But with that, we'll go informal. If people have to drop, no problem. Obviously.
The one thing that I wanted to add to everything is that idea that if something does emerge from all of this, even if it doesn't involve us, let us know. We like to hear of those successes and to make sure that we can keep doing this for many years to come.
That's such a good point, Joe. One of the hardest things that we have to try to measure in networks and informal networks like the ones JISEA puts together is this, like, we want you to be successful. And like the way that we do hear about that is, even if we're not on the team, we want you to be successful and we want these really important topics to get pushed forward. So thanks, Joe, for pointing that out. That's huge. I see Frank's putting some stuff in the chat too.
Is anybody on the call in the path of totality?
Good question.
We have some people that traveled to the path, but I don't think they're on this call right now.
They're probably looking.
Yeah, they're looking right now, probably. It's a little
We're-
darker.
We're hitting our peak right now. So
Yeah, I can
take a look.
I have a really pretty reflection like that. Is that a chair that you posted? I have a really pretty one outside my basement that I'm looking at. That is awesome. Well, we don't have to stick around, but we will share out I will stick around. But we will share out the slides from this and the resources. And we really, especially for those of you, I see NREL folks on the phone, we would love to figure out and make sure that the meeting is as useful as possible for all of NREL also. So like if you have ideas or thoughts or want to push that forward, we would love to talk to you about that as we start planning the next one, because it is, I think we don't have very many whole of NREL meetings, and we really want to make this one as valuable as we can. So let me know. Thanks, Sue. All right. Well, we can be quiet and I'll hang out if people want to chat. And I'll turn off the recording. Thanks so much. Thanks everybody for your time and effort and all of this. We appreciate you. Talk to you soon.